But anyway, those are just some of my thoughts on the nitty gritty, of the system, whether it is appropriate. I don't want to say interesting. You and I just keep dancing around that word, but it's appropriate for you for this game to say I have just taken a laser shot through my left bicep, and
Okay.
that changes my tasks, my options for what I'm going to do next. Why? Because your freaking arm doesn't work. It's pretty straightforward. Whether that kind of thing
Hmm.
is important for you in the course of play, that shift in capability or options, as opposed to, for example, saying, well, you've got so many difficulty points to overcome for this challenge of actually disarming that beacon, deactivating that beacon on the outside of the ship. And if you fail to do it with this, your attempt to deal with this card has failed out and you're dealing with this badly, you're probably running through the ship with cards after you, having completely failed to suborn this card. But your buddies, they've still got a chance of knocking down the skill point or the difficulty points with their rolls. Let's hope you get a much better roll. If I had got a pretty good roll and you had gotten an okay roll, that would have been good. I fucked up totally. It's all on you. You got to get a lot out of this one, right? We're worried if we need those points, and now it's more on you than it was before. So do you see what I mean? Both of those have a failed roll or I don't know, a failed dodge roll or something, but whatever it was that gets you shot through the arm, and
Hmm.
the other one. So they're operating at very different scales. And in this one, it's all what happened to me and what my options are. And in the second one, it's all about how I did and then how that changes your options.
Okay.
So those are all different ways for this agency or the character side of agency to be expressed.
Gotcha. When we talk about the specific character mattering. So like in some games, like you mentioned, Troll Babe and the Mountain Witch, there's not much. The differentiation between the characters is different than, let's say, D&D, where you have
Right.
total, you
And
have different classes, and
yeah,
there's
exactly.
totally
So the,
different.
the
Yeah.
the understanding differences between characters as basically power sets is pretty easy to
Hmm.
understand.
Yeah.
Whether it's important or not is another question.
Right.
But it's at least easy to understand, and it's one of the difficulties with fourth edition is that everybody complains that most of the character classes are alike, and then you have to say no, there are actually four character classes. There's leader, defender, striker, and controller. Those are the character classes. The rest are subclasses, and they just didn't tell you that, but you should have figured that out, in my opinion. Um, and so the idea though in that game is that a number of people complain that yes, we have these different power sets on our page, but then we look again and we don't feel like they're very different. Um, so I'm just saying that, but at least it's easy to understand power set differences between characters, playbooks in Apocalypse World and stuff like that. Vince, don't get mad at me if I say this, but I'm still trying to figure out how those aren't character classes. But okay, so we had that. And then what you're talking about then with the Mountain Witch, Troll Babe, or a number of others, um, is a softer effect, which is strangely, nevertheless, quite consistently evident in play. In the Mountain Witch, the main thing is the backstory of
Right.
each character, which is a secret and furthermore also grants that player certain game master like authorities, situational authorities, and backstory authorities that the players need to understand that they have. Right.
And Dark Fate mechanic.
Yeah, exactly. The Dark
Okay.
Fate mechanic actually
Okay.
gives you the ability to do things to situations that the game master is not allowed to do. Um,
And is that the main way characters are differentiated
the
in the Mountain Witch
yes,
method?
especially because I and then maybe be showing my leanings too in that Tim originally had characters picking a whole bunch of traits, like the special traits that they get. And I always lobbied to knock that number down. And in the last time I played, everybody just got one. I just said, screw the rules say three or something, screw all that. Pick one.
So
And
how to
so,
tell
but the point
when it
was,
would
is that those in Mountain Witch, those do not give you extra dice or bonuses of any kind. They
right.
afford you fictional capabilities of what you can be trying to do, which is often non-trivial, but they do not give you. You're not better with a bow. You just have one.
So it's still satisfying for people because of, even though it doesn't in terms of dice mechanics, it doesn't change anything. But because you're able to express your character's individuality through the dark fate, through the fiction, that still makes it a satisfying experience.
Well, it certainly does in
Is that
my
okay?
case, especially because expressing it through the fiction in the Mountain Witch can be very consequential. Um, Trollbabe is a little more interesting in that somehow this effect occurs because you get to choose what your My Little Pony doll's hair is like. You basically describe your character's hair and horns and one or
Okay.
two other things picked from lists, very short lists. And for some reason, we're off to the races. Right. If your character has multiple braids falling in every direction all around her chest and back and shoulders, and this other character has, a crew cut on one side and fully shaved on the other, and the first one has two little pointy horns and the second one has like big old wraparound horns. I don't know why. I don't know why. I wrote it because I knew it would work, and it does.
So that's like, again, it doesn't play a role in the, well, it's some of your like relationship and stuff, dude, but your description plays no role in the dice mechanics.
Right.
But just the fact that your troll babe looks different and speaks different, and maybe their magic is a little different, right?
Well,
Because
they
you got
you
different
choose
magic.
whether you
Okay.
emphasize troll or human
Yeah.
magic, and then that plays a
Yeah.
big role in other things about what you're depicting. But yeah,
And that's sufficient.
it seems to be.
And that's sufficient.
Mhm.
Okay, that's interesting.
So those are obviously there's lots of different ways one can go with this. Um, the I mean, the range of where you want those differences to be, how big the differences are, their impact on play as numbers and stuff like that. All of that is. I mean, what we need to learn though is just bells and whistles of mechanical consequence is not sufficient. You just end up with a sort of second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons character with every imaginable detail festooning off of festooned with all their different gear and with all their different this and that, and frankly it's just this huge clanking wad of nothing. um, so that's one thing that I found from a lot of the 90s games is you'll spend a year making up your character and you're still basically standing there waiting for the plot to tell you what to do.
So where does that go wrong?
It goes wrong, I think, in two ways. One is, again, lack of consequence of failure or success in what you do in terms
Okay.
of changing things up.
Right.
Either you basically just get taken out by the foe's critical hit, or you take them out with a critical hit, except then you get golden ruled and told that it doesn't work. And then, because obviously it's not fun if, their NPC is taken out. Sorry, channeling a few too many things here. Let me get back to the point. The point is that if the consequences are not things that change up the situation, either immediate situation, oh, I can't use my rifle, my left arm doesn't work. Either the immediate situation or the overall situation that you're trying to affect. The whether the thingy gets, whether we disarm the or deactivate the beacon or not. All of those things, uh, how am I going to put this? If you don't have that in play, so that when we look at what changed at the end of this whole arc, and we don't find our agency in it, we can look back and say, oh, look what your character's accomplished. And you're kind of like, yeah, but everything that led to us accomplishing that was your decision of what would be more fun as we went through bit by bit by bit. So basically, we were kind of your raw material or cheering section for every one of your move us aheads. And the fact that I shot that guard doesn't really make any difference to that. So I think that's the main problem, is if we need to look at the agency issue. What I'm trying to say is that that's a universal design issue that is not solved simply by adding a wide range of options to pick from about your character's capabilities.
Got it.
That will be immensely distracting, and especially if you promise good ones just down the road.
Right.
So that they're, running after their next improvement and have sort of pre-built their next version of the character already and are kind of, inching toward it. You can keep things going that way for a while, but who if you're going to play through the full 30 levels of 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons, there's got to be something else going on that keeps it going. And I mean enthusiastically keeps it going as an inspired and desired activity. There's got to be something else going on about play and its consequences besides the Benny of the next level.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I gotta call it, I think, for the session.
Is it anything you'd like to see me do before our next?
Actually, I think a provisional. In full knowledge, that it is provisional and could easily be taken out in the back and shot, later. Sure. Within full knowledge of that, throw together some let's do this mechanics kind of thing. What would 3 characters look like? Say, I'm going to go the Mountain Witch way. What's that going to look like?
Okay.
Or you would say, no, I want, if you're the engineer, you've got these things, and if you're the tourist, then you've got these things. This is important. Whole different set per page, per character. Either way, but pick one and think about, okay, what scale are failures going to occur at? Is it about how much damage I took to my bicep? Or is it about, okay, no, your whole aim here of deactivating the beacon, just took a beating in that last roll. And throw something together just so we can get a feel for the characters in these circumstances, in these situations. For the next session, I'd like to play a little bit of that. Just throw the dice or pull the cards, or trade the talking around as needed. And also, I think I'm going to bring and I'll send it to you first. Um, a, 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 a system. I'll get one of the like the free role playing games or something that's kicking around out there, and say,
Okay.
okay, let's play that two together. And you can say, oh, I don't want it to be anything like that. Or
Okay.
you can say, oh, that thing that would port perfectly into my thing, or whatever. But no matter what, it's productive to feel your way through the way some other game is doing it and decide how that relates to yours. How does my system that I don't even know what it is yet, but now I know how it's going to relate to that one. It's not going to be anything like that feature in that one. Right?
Okay.
So that's my thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. Take
Will
care.
do.
See you
Thank
later.
you so much.
Yeah.
See you next time.